Okay, so welcome everyone to our presentation on South Asian mental health. We're going to give you first a land acknowledgement. Youth Mental Health Canada is in the city of Hamilton, and we are situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. Today, the city of Hamilton is home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island. YMHC recognizes our commitment to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report and our responsibility to Indigenous communities across Canada. I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Cheryl Boswell. I'm the Executive Director and founder of Youth Mental Health Canada. We started 11 years ago. I'm an educator. I've taught elementary, secondary, post-secondary, and adult education students in Canada and Africa. I'm a writer of 5 mental wellness workbooks, 5 booklets, and 1 guidebook on supporting students with chronic school absenteeism. I'm a suicide law survivor, and I'm a facilitator of workshops, presentations, and training courses for students, families, mental health and education professionals, and community workers across Canada and internationally.
So hi everyone, my name is Prerna Gautam. मैं यहाँ पे स्टूडेंट हूँ, मैं फर्स्ट ईयर स्टूडेंट हूँ हम्बर्ट कॉलेज लेकशोर कैंपस में. मैं स्टडी कर रही हूँ पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन प्रोग्राम. मैं 22 साल की हूँ और मुझे कनाडा में पूरा 1 साल हो चुका है. मैं पंजाब से बिलोंग करती हूँ, फ्रॉम इंडिया. Yeah.
Okay. And the red part on the map is
Punjab.
Yeah, where Ariana is from. Okay. And a little bit of background about YMHC. We are an educator and youth-led charitable nonprofit organization. We're not funded by the government or by grant foundations. We're focused on individualized, accessible, and inclusive school and community-based solutions. We advocate for a preventative, proactive, trauma-informed educational model for mental health and wellness that integrates social justice, intersectionality, equity, and human rights awareness and action. Okay, and now we're going to get started talking about South Asian mental health.
Okay, so it's all in your head. And then that's what got me. It's all in my head. Is it really all in my head? Because I'm going through it. This is reality.
It was hard to understand what was going on with my dad and his behavior. In 1999, he was finally diagnosed with bipolar. It took me 35 years to understand what my dad went through. And it took me 35 years to tell my dad, Dad, I actually love you.
I got low marks. I wasn't at school a lot. And someone just said to me, like, hey, I think you might be bipolar. You start all of these projects, you have high energy, you're so happy all the time, and then you just crash.
I felt like I wasn't really truly taking care of myself or really taking into considerations things I might be struggling with.
I was very privileged and thankful to have a large support system and friends, and caring and loving family. However, I never went to them.
I knew some friends that kind of went through this too, but we didn't have a label to put with it. I just had so much pain in my heart. I just wanted someone to see the pain, but no one did.
I had no outlet, so I was not creative. I had nowhere to, I guess, let out all those emotions, and I suppressed everything, and that led to it all compounding. So I went into a dark place after that.
I get these thoughts a lot. I didn't know what to do with it. I felt like I was scared to be alone. I didn't know if I was capable of doing what my thoughts were telling me to do. That's when I made my way right in front of the hospital. I got through the barrier and I jumped.
Reach out for professional help. I know it's hard, but you have to find one of those days where you just have a little bit more energy than usual and use that day to just go get professional help. And if one doctor doesn't take you seriously, don't let that stop you.
I didn't want my friends and family seeing their faces that day showed me how much pain that they were in, and it showed me that they were going through this just as much as I was going through this.
Being vulnerable with yourself, writing things down, whatever it may be, figure out who you are, and only then can you start understanding other people around you.
Breaking the mental health stigma in our community will not only make our community a better place, but it will help shape the next generation as well.
Anxiety is still a struggle. I'm still figuring it out. You can't have everything, but it's a process. Recovery isn't always like an uphill battle. It's up and down, up and down. But yeah, every day is a learning process.
Silence is no longer an option. Know that it's okay to talk about it.
Okay, so a little bit of background about South Asians in Canada. There are 2.6 million Canadians of South Asian origin in Canada, the largest racialized group in the country, almost 10% of the Canadian population. South Asian Canadians are affected by higher rates of anxiety and mood disorders compared to other ethnic groups in Canada. They are 85% less likely to seek treatment than other Canadians who experience the same illnesses. Okay, and now in Hindi.
So yeah, साउथ एशियन रीजन जो कनाडा का है वो सबसे लार्जेस्ट एरिया है वहाँ, और तकरीबन 10% कनेडियन पॉपुलेशन रहती है। साउथ एशियन कनेडियन जो है सबसे ज्यादा इफेक्ट प्रभावित हुए हैं अपनी चिंता से, दोष से, और अगर इसका कंपैरिजन किसी और ग्रुप इलनेस के साथ किया जाए तो बहुत ही ज्यादा कम है, और इसका इलाज बाकी बीमारियों से बहुत कम किया जाता है।
Mental health issues are prevalent among South Asian communities. They often go unaddressed due to cultural stigma and lack of mental health awareness and education.
So, मानसिक बीमारी है जो एक बहुत ही बड़ा दोष है साउथ एशियन कम्युनिटीज में। इसको हमेशा नजरअंदाज किया जाता है क्योंकि इसके बारे में लोगों को नॉलेज नहीं है, इसके बारे में लोगों को अवेयरनेस नहीं है, और इसे हमेशा नजरअंदाज किया जाता है।
And of course, in addition to cultural stigma, there's self-stigma, gender stigma that
Yes.
we'll deal with as well. Despite the high prevalence of mental health issues, South Asians use mental health services less frequently than other groups.
मानसिक इलनेस का सबसे ज्यादा दोष होने के कारण भी साउथ एशियन एरियाज में इसे बहुत ही कम ट्रीटमेंट दिया जा रहा है बाकी अदर मानसिक बीमारियों के कंपैरिजन से।
There are higher rates of depression, anxiety, and other mental health disorders in South Asian communities.
इसके बहुत ज्यादा लक्षण दिख रहे हैं दोष के, चिंता के, हर एक मेंटल मानसिकता बीमारी के बहुत ही ज्यादा लक्षण दिखने आ रहे हैं साउथ एशियन कम्युनिटीज में।
There are negative attitudes towards mental health issues within the South Asian community.
मानसिक बीमारी को हमेशा से ही बुरा माना जा रहा है साउथ एशियन कम्युनिटीज में और अदर बाकी सब चीजों में भी।
Strong cultural stigma and misconceptions about mental health exist in South Asian communities.
साउथ एशियन कम्युनिटीज में मानसिक बीमारियों को हमेशा से ही बुरा दिखाया जा रहा है, इसके बारे में लोग बात नहीं करना चाहते। नागरिकता में और कल्चर स्टिग्मा, ये सब चीजें बहुत ज्यादा देखने को पाई जा रही हैं साउथ एशियन कम्युनिटीज में।
navigating dual cultural identity, so the identity in Canada and the country of origin identity, cultural adaptation stress, and intergenerational conflicts are challenges for South Asian young people.
साउथ एशियन के नौजवानों में ये बहुत ही बड़ा चैलेंज है उनको कल्चर में अडॉप्ट करना स्ट्रेस कल्चर एडेप्टेशन स्ट्रेस रहता है उन लोगों को बहुत ज्यादा चीजों से गो थ्रू करना पड़ता है ये सब चीजें बहुत ज्यादा देखने को पाई जा रही हैं साउथ एशियन लोगों में
Language barriers, lack of culturally competent services, and reluctance to seek help are obstacles to getting mental health support.
भाषा का बदलाव आना लोगों को अपने कल्चर के बारे में ज्यादा ना पता होना एक दूसरे के साथ विचलना ये सब चीजें बहुत ही समस्या प्रदान करती हैं इनको मदद की जरूरत है मानसिकता की बीमारियों में
Raising awareness of mental health and wellness issues and providing culturally relevant and sensitive mental health education are important needs.
आजकल ये सबसे जरूरी लोड़वंद चीज हो चुकी है कि हम सबको मानसिक बीमारियों के प्रति अवेयरनेस देनी चाहिए लोगों को इसके बारे में शिक्षा देनी चाहिए so that people can overcome from these issues.
Experiences of racial and cultural discrimination increase stress and contribute to mental health problems.
लोगों को अपने कल्चर में भेदभाव ये सारी चीजें मानसिक बीमारियों को चिंता को बढ़ावा देते हैं
Young South Asians often feel pressure to excel academically, professionally, and socially to uphold the family reputation and honor.
नौजवानों को हमेशा से ही ये प्रेशर प्रेशर फील होता है उनको अपनी पढ़ाई को लेकर उनको अपने काम को लेकर लोगों के साथ विचलने को लेकर ताजो के वो अपनी अपनी फैमिली को अपनी पेरेंट्स की रेपुटेशन को बनाए रखे ये सारी चीजें आजकल के नौजवानों को प्रेशराइज कर रही हैं ये सबसे बड़ा उनका मेंटल हेल्थ खराब कर रहा है
In addition, there is pressure to meet the standards and expectations of the community.
वही सब बातें लोगों को ये प्रेशर है कि वो अपने आप को कैसे लोगों के सामने स्टैंड बाय करें और ये सारी एक्सपेक्टेशंस उनको प्रेशराइज कर रही हैं
Many people struggle with adapting to a new cultural environment, living in Canada as a newcomer, while maintaining their cultural heritage.
लोगों को अपना कल्चर हेरिटेज बनाने रखने के लिए बहुत समस्याओं का सामना करना पड़ता है जब वो किसी में न्यू कंट्री में जाके उनका कल्चर को अडेप्ट करते हैं ये सारी मुश्किलें भी उनके लिए स्ट्रेस पैदा करती हैं लोगों के साथ विचलना उनके साथ बातें करना ये सब बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है लोगों के लिए
Balancing dual identities and facing conflicts between traditional values and contemporary lifestyle is a challenge for many people.
सारी चीजों का बैलेंस करना लोगों के साथ बातें करना अपनी आइडेंटिटी बनाए रखना लोगों को अपनी लाइफस्टाइल अपना ट्रेडिशन दिखाना ये सारी सब चीजें एक चैलेंज बन जाती हैं बहुत सारे लोगों के लिए
Understanding the unique stressors and challenges faced by South Asians is crucial for providing effective mental health support.
लोगों की समस्याओं को समझना, उन्होंने उनके चैलेंजेस फेस करना साउथ एशियन एक जरूरी है उनको एक महत्वपूर्ण मेंटल हेल्थ सपोर्ट प्रोवाइड करवाना।
Mhm. So now we're going to look at some common family and cultural issues that South Asian young people in particular can often face. So some of the comments that parents might make or grandparents, elders in the family to young people, you must become a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer to make us proud. What will people think if you don't succeed? You need to sacrifice for the family.
अब हम बात करेंगे जो कॉमन फैमिली प्रेशर्स हैं, कल्चर इश्यूज हैं जो बच्चों को दिया जाता है कि बड़े होकर आपको डॉक्टर बनना है, इंजीनियर बनना है, लॉयर बनना है, हमें प्राउड फील करवाना है, लोग क्या सोचेंगे अगर तुमने ये सब हासिल नहीं किया, तुम्हें ये सब करना होगा अपनी फैमिली की खुशी के लिए, तुम्हें सब कुछ सेक्रीफाइस करना होगा सिर्फ अपने परिवार के लिए।
And now we're going to look at gender-specific issues. The first one for what females often experience. There's pressure to conform to traditional roles and behaviors, and criticism for pursuing independence or career goals over family responsibilities.
अगर बात की जाए फीमेल्स की, लड़कियों की, तो उनके ऊपर बहुत प्रेशर रहता है। उन्हें हमेशा से ही अपना अपनी आजादी छोड़ के, अपनी फैमिली की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज, अपना करियर सब छोड़ के अपनी फैमिली की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज में ध्यान देना पड़ता है। उनको प्रेशराइज किया जाता है अपने ट्रेडिशन के साथ जुड़े रहने के लिए, अपना अपना बिहेवियर ना चेंज करने के लिए। सो लड़कियों के लिए ये बहुत ही प्रेशराइज चीज हो जाती है।
And for males, there's expectations to be the primary breadwinner and uphold family honor, and criticism for expressing emotions or seeking mental health support.
अगर बात की जाए लड़कों की, तो उनसे बहुत सारी एक्सपेक्टेशंस होती है कि तुम्हें अपना अपना घर चलाना है, अपने घर का बड़ा बनना है, तुम्हें अपने इमोशंस छिपा के रखने होंगे, लोग क्या सोचेंगे। तुम ये सारी चीजें लड़कों के लिए भी सेम ही इश्यूज क्रिएट करती हैं।
Young South Asian people are expected to conform to traditional gender roles and responsibilities.
नौजवान जो हैं साउथ एशियन, वो बहुत उनको अपने ट्रेडिशनल जेंडर रोल्स एंड रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज को कंफर्म करना पड़ता है।
There is pressure to hide mental health issues to avoid shame and maintain the family honor within families.
हाँ, आजकल यहाँ पे हमें अपनी मानसिक बीमारियों को छुपा के रखना पड़ता है, क्योंकि सिर्फ इसी चीज के लिए कि हमारी फैमिली, हमारे पेरेंट्स को किसी भी प्रकार की कुछ भी लोगों से सुनना ना पड़ जाए। ये सारी चीजों को वो अच्छा नहीं मानते। ये सारी चीजें भी एक एक प्रकार का प्रेशर होता है हमारे ऊपर कि हमें लोगों को खुश ही दिखाना है।
Young people often feel
कि
responsible.
हमारी फैमिली इस सब में सफर करे।
Okay, sorry. Young people often feel responsible for their parents' emotional well-being. They can experience guilt, shame, and anxiety when trying to meet their own needs or to set boundaries.
नौजवानों
her computer's freezing, so I'll just continue. Family enmeshment is an experience that some families might experience, some young people might experience. What does that refer to? What does that mean? It's a situation where there's the boundaries between parents and children are blurred, leading to over-involvement in each other's lives. What are some of the characteristics? Lack of privacy, excessive emotional dependence, the expectation that children mirror their parents' beliefs and values, and children may struggle with self-identity and independence. Young people could experience anxiety, guilt, and difficulty forming healthy relationships. There's often a fear of conflict, low self-esteem, and challenges in maintaining personal boundaries when people experience enmeshment. And I think this is an excellent film that I'm not going to show the whole thing, but I think there's a lot of stories that are really excellent.
Our own culture doesn't support the fact that mental health is a problem, then what's the point? And it took me getting to a really, really, really bad place before I realized, wait, this is not good. This is not normal. This is dangerous.
It's not spoken about in my family. It's not spoken about in our communities. When we look at how South Asian people, especially the older generation, talk about their psychological struggles, they talk about the body. They never talk about this.
Ladies and gentlemen, I go by the name of Hartfield. Two fingers up, I said peace. One finger down, I said please. Point to the place where I need to be. My name is Ardish. So my stage name is Hyphen. Do it for the art, so my dream, I point to the place where I need to be. The mental health thing for me is what everything always comes back to. Basically, every person I've ever met has obstacles in the way of their choices that would make them happy. British Asians have a lot of those obstacles. For example, people who are really artsy, but they have to go into finance or medicine or accounting or law or whatever. I had a story which a lot of British Asians are probably quite familiar with until the age of about my mid-20s. I worked quite hard at school. I went to university to study philosophy and economics. I worked in finance for a few years. And around that time, when I just started in finance, I had a friend who died by suicide. And a few years later, or maybe a year or so later, I remember walking home from work. I was working in finance. I was suicidal at the point. I remember sort of thinking, there's no point going on. I'm so desperately sad. Nothing can ever fix this. What's the point anymore? And it was at that point when I was like, this is the point I'm at. That's where I've gotten to. And this isn't like, this isn't kind of healthy. This isn't good. Yeah, I think that was the moment where I was like, okay, you can't stop pretending this is a thing anymore.
When I'd say psychology, the immediate thing would be, oh, buggle, crazy people. People would be a bit like, oh, okay. But what was interesting was that when they would get me on their own, so not in a crowd, they would say, I've got a cousin or an aunt or relatives who might need your help. So they would kind of do it on the quiet. They wouldn't want to say it in front of people that this is what's happening.
People are frightened of mental illness because they don't know what causes it. The people who seek help because they feel that if they seek help, it will become known in the community and others will reject them, not talk to them, nobody would marry into their family.
this forward a bit.
Who looks like you or speaks the same language as you, talking about mental health, straight away, it helps to break down some of that stigma that does exist in the community.
Grew up in East London, and my parents were quite traditional. Both of them are Muslim. I think it was in year 9. I was obviously also hitting puberty at the time, and I think that's when I started having like challenges around just sort of like self-esteem, confidence, and this overwhelming sense of like feeling quite sad and not really fitting in with my siblings too much, and I always felt like an outsider. Don't remember how it started, but I just remember that I was in the bathroom one day, and there was like one of my dad's like razors, and I took the razor off, and then there was obviously I took the blade out, and I remember that night it was like I just like cut my arms, and it just felt like this release, and it sort of like became, and I didn't even know like self-harm was like a thing then. I didn't really know how to speak to my parents about it. And I think I brought it up once with one of my teachers at school, and I just sort of mentioned it that I was struggling. My teacher took me to the head teacher's office, and I spoke to her about it, and they referred me. I think I was in year 11 at the time. They referred me to a mental health specialist. All the therapists were white women or white men, and it was just so difficult to explain to them that, like, when I told them, they were like, oh, so do you speak to your parents about this? They must know. And I'm like, no, they do not know about this. And it was really hard to explain that to them. There was a huge cultural barrier because it's not spoken about in my family. It's not spoken about in our communities. I did my master's at Cambridge, and I remember it was my second week there, and the college BAME officer, we were having a party, and he came up to me, and he was like, I was wearing an England shirt because I was watching the cricket, and he came up to me, and he was like, oh, why is a Paki wearing an England shirt? And it was just like this, it was just a whole new element of like, wow, it's like, again, isolation and like, being disconnected from the culture that you're so obviously part of. You've grown up here, and then you get rejected by like, people who believe it to be like only theirs and things like that. And I think my master's at Cambridge, that was a really, really difficult period, and I really struggled with my identity and my depression, and that so many different things can trigger it. Like, I had no idea that having or like being racially abused at university would be something that would trigger my depression and anxiety, but of course it would be, because it's disgusting, and it's also like a horrible thing for someone to have to go through. I think when I got to my final year of university, that's when I sort of decided for myself. And it took a lot. Took a lot of strength and courage. But I was like, right, I need to make a change in my life. Like, I can't. As a young girl, like, I've suffered with this so much that something needs to change and something needs to give. And I think that's when I actually started looking at there's like sort of like initiatives for therapists who are like therapists of color and people who would understand these problems a lot more. So I did my research into that and found a South Asian woman and started speaking to her. So she was my therapist, and I started speaking to her, and it was just like finally someone sort of like understands it.
You tell someone to toughen up. What does that mean? When you're mentally broken, I get the intent, but you can't just toughen up. If someone turns up at a hospital with a broken arm, you can't just say, to toughen up, or you can't use words to fix that. You have to intervene and try and do something to aid that fracture getting back. It's the same thing.
To move on. So what we're talking about now is different strategies to support South Asian young people. So important is establishing a safe and non-judgmental space where young people feel comfortable to express themselves, to feel heard and validated, acknowledging experiences and struggles that people are having, promoting honest discussions about mental health within families. So definitely mental health awareness, mental health education through workbooks, through workshops, information. Youth Mental Health Canada we have mental health posters in many, over 20 languages, educating parents and guardians, families on the importance of mental health, sharing educational materials and resources, connecting young people with culturally competent and culturally sensitive materials and mental health professionals. Understanding the unique stressors and challenges that South Asian people experience, providing culturally competent care, and making sure that services and supports are respectful of and tailored to the unique needs of the individual. And family support plays a significant role in the mental well-being of South Asians. So it's really important to involve the family in the therapeutic process. Now I'm just going to give an overview of the resources that we have available. We have 5 booklets. They're printable, so people can print them. And automatic negative thoughts, building a education support team. This book is on stress management techniques for young people. Then creating a personal wellness action plan, and then an exploration of feelings. There's 3 mental wellness workbooks, the Beneath the Surface, Sources of Support, and Sources of Strength. They're all evidence-based. They're all peer-reviewed by international experts in youth mental health and suicide prevention. They're strength and hope-based tools for wellness. All books have hands-on activities that incorporate social emotional learning, cognitive behavior therapy, and dialectical behavior therapy activities. And these are ways of building proactive strategies for empowering young people, families, educators with being more aware, developing skills and strategies to maintain feelings of well-being, and also identify when people are struggling and what to do. Mental health is equally important as physical health. And a little bit of information about YMHC. We're the largest online mental health platform in Canada, and I believe we're the largest youth mental health platform internationally. Our website is ymhc.ngo and also schoolphobia.ymhc.ngo. We have 2 websites. We're located in Hamilton, and we're on all Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, TikTok, LinkedIn, you name it. So
We are everywhere.